Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for an update on what has transpired out at the crash site following the tragic UPS crash. Joined today by Congressman Morgan McGarvey, our Emergency Management Agency Executive Director Jody Myman, the Executive Director of MSD, Tony Parrott. First, we're going to start with last night. Last night, Congressman McGarvey and myself, Chief Humphrey, and some other colleagues had the opportunity to join together with employees, customers, others that are part of the Grade A Auto Parts family. There we had an opportunity to support the individuals who are going through this incredibly difficult time, grieving the loss of their loved ones, relatives, colleagues, friends. But one thing that also was inspiring last night was we heard about incredible acts of heroism. These are not trained first responders that we have heard over the past week about the great work of our firefighters, police officers, other emergency responders. But folks that were at Grade A Auto Parks, employees who jumped into action to save their colleagues. It was incredibly inspiring and uplifting during this time of great pain and tragedy. We will be there to continue to support the entire Grade A family and all the other victims and survivors for as long as it takes. Through the weekend and today, NTSB continues its work at the site, continuing the investigation to provide answers so many of us are looking for. First responders remain at the scene. Today, they're removing heavy equipment, heavy parts of the plane that have fallen into the crash site so that other first responders can continue the search for any victims that still remain on the scene. It remains a dangerous place to be, and so that's why it is still restricted to first responders. Rachel and I had a chance to visit the exterior of the perimeter of the crash field over the weekend to serve some lunch to the first responders that are working all day until we get the entire site cleaned up. Yesterday, an Okolona firefighter suffered a minor knee injury. He has been released and is recovering right now. It's amazing to think that with all these first responders, that was the first injury of a first responder that we had the scene. And on perfect cue, Chief Little from the Okolona Fire Department is joining us as well as his crews remain out there. You'll hear from Tony and Jody in a second here and some other updates, but first, let me turn it over to Congressman McGarvey, who has been an amazing partner working with us to help coordinate federal resources that are necessary following this incident. Congressman McGarvey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your team's incredible leadership throughout this entire thing. I think I was literally walking down the street in Washington, D.C., trying to get in front of a television when we first spoke about how we could coordinate this. You have been a steadfast leader in every moment since. And you mentioned, I think, so many things we're all seeing right now. First was just utter shock, grief, not really knowing how we could all process what's going on. I think some of that shock is still there, but you're seeing a lot of sadness right now in our community, a lot of hurt. Whether it's meeting with victims, families, whether it's meeting with survivors who are starting to come to grips with their own experiences out there. The mayor mentioned last night, we gathered with a group of people, and it was family members of the people who've passed away. It was people who were there, who managed to escape, some who helped others escape. Their stories are heartbreaking. The pain is still so fresh and so real. It is sometimes even masked by the shock of how they talk about it. I was talking to one guy who was there last night, and it came up, and I said, "So you were there when this happened?" He said, "Oh yeah, I was in my office in a different building." And he talked about how he heard the explosions and ran outside, and all he could see was fire, and he was paralyzed. And he realized what was happening, and the heat was so intense that he knew he wanted to run, but he said he couldn't move his feet. It was only after that someone credited him with saving their life because they said that he was yelling to run while he himself couldn't move his own feet. but he doesn't remember telling people to run. These stories, I think, are going to keep coming out. And as they do, it's so important for all of us to continue lifting each other up, to continue talking about, if you need help, ask for it. There's so many services available, and we're all here for each and every one of you. I want to speak a little bit on the federal side of this. The city partners have been amazing. Jody, you and your team, Chief Little, you, of course, and all the brave first responders, your firehouse. Tony, thank you all so much for what you've done to our state partners and the governor. They're incredible. NTSB is still on the ground. They are doing the work. They are trying to get these answers as quickly as possible. The mayor and I remain in contact with them and what they are doing. They are thorough, they are deliberate, they are intentional. We want those answers now. They want those answers as well, but they're going to make sure they're right before they get them out there to the public. They are still very much doing this work and intentional about it. I want to congratulate or thank a little bit the EPA. I think the EPA has done a really good job of working with state and local partners and making sure that the cleanup from this is as thorough as it can possibly be, and that any possible problems as a result of the fire itself or from putting out the fire are as minimal as they can possibly be. And of course, our federal partners with the NTSB, the FBI has been out collecting evidence. We remain in touch with all of them as this is truly a partnership, which is something you'd expect in Louisville, something you'd expect in Kentucky. All of us, city, state, federal, every single person out there working together to help get answers, to help people who need it, to help make sure that in spite of this awful, almost incomprehensible tragedy, that we're doing everything we can to put the pieces back together and help each other out. So thank you so much, Mayor.
Thanks, Congressman. As you just heard the Congressman mention, so many folks have been helping, so many different agencies, and this is a situation where early action prevented an even worse catastrophe from happening. In some places where the crash occurred, oil was 2, 3, or more feet deep at the time. UPS has brought in a contractor to work with the EPA, work with MSD to make sure that the entire site is cleaned up. But even before they got onto the scene, MSD was there. Jody was recounting how there are very few incidents that he can recall where the cleanup is beginning while the first responders are still on scene responding. But because of that fast action by MSD, we really did prevent an even worse catastrophe from some of the fuel and other things that were on the plane and that happened as a result of the horrible explosions. The MSD has been coordinating the cleanup here. They have helped stop 30,000 gallons of oil from going into our groundwater, and they and their entire team should be commended for the early action and continued work that they've done throughout this process to protect our waterways, to protect our ground from further contamination from all of the gas and the oil. To talk a little bit more about this cleanup effort that continues still today, please join me in welcoming the Executive Director of MSD, Tony Parrott.
Thank you, Mayor Greenberg, and also Congressman McGarvey. Obviously, we want to extend our condolences and our sympathy to all the victims of this tragedy. We also want to extend our deepest gratitude to first responders and utility crews who have worked tirelessly in the face of this tragedy. MSD's environmental response team began immediately after the UPS plane crash on November 4th. We responded and were ready to mobilize within 90 minutes after the crash, and the men and women of our industrial waste division began to monitor the nearby waterways for potentially contamination and runoff from the explosion and implement temporary mitigation efforts. And it was because of their quick response, they placed floating booms that absorb oil and affect waterways, such in areas such as Northern Ditch. Runoff is primarily located in the Pond Creek watershed. The Northern Ditch, which is the further northern Big Ditch, and the Southern Ditch, and all these interconnected waterways eventually drain down to the Ohio River. Fortunately, with the response that we were able to employ, and also the day after with EPA and others arriving to the site, and so many collaborative efforts really allowed us to assess things, particularly as daylight began on Wednesday morning. On Wednesday morning, we did discover our nearby Melco drainage basin was impacted by the runoff from the crash site. And one of the things that I think is very clear for the public to understand is that that basin has been isolated ever since. And so everything that has collected in that basin did not release to the waterways. So as the mayor mentioned, because of our quick action and our ability to isolate that basin, we were able to save a lot of, or contain a lot of oil and a lot of runoff from the plane crash site. On Wednesday morning early, a contractor from UPS began to lead the cleanup effort, and obviously MSD has been there to support not only the contractor, but EPA, the Kentucky Division of Water, and also local EMA to work together to assess, and we continue to assess the environmental impact of this. Last week, we did put out an advisory out of an extreme caution, asking the community to avoid contact with the waterways in the southern part of Jefferson County due to potentially contaminated runoff. That advisory, although precautionary, is still in effect, and we are still asking people to avoid contact with waterways, especially along Pond Creek, the northern ditch, and southern ditch. However, there is no impact to the drinking water in those areas, and unless you've been contacted by Louisville Water, you should not be concerned about your drinking water. We ask folks to avoid touching, swimming, fishing, or kayaking, or interacting in those waterways in any fashion, and keep your pets away from the water as well. If you see oil, debris, or discoloration in the waterway, please report it to MSD by contacting our customer relations at 502-540-6000 or email us at customerrelations@louisvillemsd.org. We will continue to work with EMA, also EPA, and others, and continue our assessment of the waterways over the next several weeks. And so until then, that advisory that we put out on Friday will remain in effect, and we will continue our assessment and update the public accordingly as we learn more.
Thank you very much, Tony. So next, Jody Myman, our Director of Emergency Management Agencies, is going to come talk a little bit about what businesses that have been impacted by this crash should be doing and some additional resources that we're working to open up for other impacted businesses and individuals. Jody?
Thank you, Mayor. Over the weekend, as you all know, we transitioned. We were able to line up the number of victims that had been removed from the scene with the number of victims or the missing persons reports that were taken by the Louisville Metro Police Department. But that still didn't stop our rescue or our search and recovery. We still remain on site. Like the mayor said, there's a lot of heavy equipment that's being moved. And as that equipment is being moved or the debris is being moved, we stop and we go search that area. We've got a contractor on site as well that's taking any personal belongings that could be associated with any victim on site or anyone else that was in the area during the time of the crash. So it's a very coordinated effort. We've also got things on the site that were associated with the aircraft that have to be made safe once found. So we've got agencies on site that can take care of that. That's also a temporary stop if we have to, and this is no danger to the public. We just have to isolate the immediate area while we mitigate some of these issues. I want to thank LG&E. They really had to rebuild a portion of the infrastructure on Gray Lane. They worked very hard. My prayers go out to the family of the individual that suffered losses there and their team as well. And they still came through. They had, other contractors come in to be able to take care of that site so that we could move forward with the continuous cleanup there. Tony mentioned the waterway and what the Louisville Water Company, they've been on site since the first night, and also Louisville Metro Public Health and Wellness to help with the cleanup issue on a local level. We've been in constant contact with businesses directly associated and affected by the area, and are coordinating, again, temporary, very short escorted visits for those that have been that are not associated or not affected by the actual investigation that the NTSB is conducting and have been released by that. We have contacts. We will contact you if that is made available. We will also have a hotline set up by mid-afternoon tomorrow that individuals, not only business owners, but community members, if they were affected in any way, shape, or form by the disaster, that they can call and get information. And we will have a community resource center set up by the end of the week that they can visit that will have a lot of or many resources on site that they'll be able to take advantage of if anyone has suffered any kind of hardship through this disaster. So we're working diligently. This is going to be a long drawn out effort. We are also working to reduce the footprint of the disaster site itself, which could ultimately get some businesses back opened over the course of the next week or so. So again, we're working hard. We've still got resources on scene, and we will continue that through the duration of the incident. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. So again, we are working rapidly to get a new number set up that you heard we'll have by tomorrow. We will publicize that extensively online. We'll provide that to the media. We know that beyond the victims who were injured, who were killed by this tragedy, so many other people were also impacted. And so we are opening up a community resource center for businesses and individuals who were impacted. And we will have that open up this week, and we'll have a number that everyone can call by tomorrow so that people can start getting additional resources that they might need as well. We know folks are looking to get the identification and names of the victims who died in this crash. The coroner, I want to give a big thanks to. The coroner and her team are working incredibly thoroughly and as rapidly as possible through the weekend. Every day we're in constant contact with them, and she is working to get these victims identified as quickly as possible. It is made incredibly challenging due to the nature of this crash, due to the nature of the heat and the flames that you heard Congressman McGarvey talk about, that you all have seen and heard about as well. When we have those names available and when the families have been formally notified, we will then make those names public as soon as we can in the coming days. But again, I thank you to our coroner, Joanne Farmer, for her and her team's extensive work on this. Also to other victims that have survived but have been impacted in one way or another, whether you are one of the 12 individuals who was transported to a hospital due to an injury and survived, or whether you never made it to a hospital but you were impacted in some way by this crash. That's what this number that we put out will be there for, to help you. We do want to encourage people to reach out to their employer if they were employed by one of the impacted businesses and you're worried about what is going to happen with your upcoming paycheck and your work schedule. Please reach out to your employer if you have not already. If you have insurance and your car might have been on the scene and you're okay, but you can't get your car was damaged, something like that, please also, in addition to your employer, please contact your insurer. And again, we will then have this resource center available for everyone else to answer any other questions that anyone else that has been impacted by this horrible tragedy may have, so we can help everyone as well. Our work as we continue to support the victims will continue as long as necessary. We'll continue to be working all of our agencies across Louisville Metro government to provide answers that the community is seeking. We will certainly provide that information as soon as we have it available regarding the victims and any other things that we think the public is looking to know as soon as it's available. That said, this will probably be our last daily press conference on this, and as more information is available, we'll continue to either provide that through other briefings that we have on other topics, or we'll make that directly available to the media. And certainly if news warrants, we'll call one again. But just to manage how we're going to proceed moving forward, this probably is our last definite daily press conference on this matter. So with that, we will open it up to the media for questions that you all might have.
Related to Grade Lane, Jody, you were just talking about how you were working to try and get the businesses potentially in there in the next week or so. Can you talk about those last steps to ensure that it is safe in there? And at what point do you think Grade Lane could be reopened? And one last question connected to that, who is actually in control of the scene right now?
So right now we have control of the scene with security. Louisville Metro Police Department is coordinating that. They're on scene as part of our unified command. So we have a good security plan to make sure that nobody gets into scene 24 hours a day, even when we scale back after dark as well. As far as Grade Lane opening, it still has to be cleaned. I mean, there's several processes that it takes to clean it, and one is sand, and it's almost like the cars that are moving on it is cleaning it as they're driving across the sand. So that's one step of the process that's already taken place just over the last week. But there's a couple different steps of the process that have to still take place before that can be opened up. So, and then one of the biggest thing is the NTSB's investigation and what can be released. They're still looking for debris in certain areas that could still be away from the actual main debris field that could still be on the property of some of these business owners. So, as we hope, our hope is to again reduce that footprint as the days go on, and we'll be able to announce that to the media when we do that. Yes, sir.
Just add one more thing to that, just to give you a sense. Today, again, a lot of heavy machinery and equipment and debris from the plane is being removed. Every vehicle that goes onto the crash site that then leaves, as Jody mentioned, is being power washed over sand before it leaves to clean it. So we need to wait until we get all of that out, till the heavy equipment and most of the large pieces from the debris field have been removed. And it's a clean where it's not then going to contaminate other parts of the city as well from vehicles or otherwise. So those are some of the reasons why it remains closed.
Question for Director Parent. Are you aware of any downstream effects or impacts of the oil spill? Have you received any reports of dead fish or wildlife?
I can tell you that obviously we are not aware of anything within our associated and our focused area. We have heard that there may have been some folks that were concerned or calling in about some fish kill further south in the creek. But what we're trying to focus on is really just within that area, within the area of the site and about 4.5 miles south towards Nick Rodman Park. Those are the areas where we have assessed that there is some water quality challenges and remediation, and we will continue to do our assessments every day.
Just to clarify, are there no more missing persons reports in terms of people reported missing to LMPD?
The question was about any additional missing persons report. At this time, there are none. As I mentioned on, I believe it was Saturday evening, we believe that the number of missing persons reports that we're aware of matches the number of victims that have been located at the site. Once we begin to identify those victims, then we'll have a better sense of whether there's an exact match. But right now, that is our best sort of conclusion. Are there any other questions? All right, well, to the Louisville community also, thank you for your incredible support to the victims, to their families, your outpouring of support in so many ways, large and small. I know it's meant a lot to everyone who has been impacted from this that I have come in contact with, and it's truly felt. This is when Louisville truly comes together and shows its strength as one community. Thank you all very much, and we'll continue to keep you all up to date. Thanks.